Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast, Unique Beauty and Meditation Podcast. I'm your host, Caryn, your resident spiritual life coach, meditation guide, and in general, let's chat about life and energy and everything in between. We are continuing on our uniquely divine chakra conversations, and we are finishing off today with the crown chakra. I'm here with my great friend Danielle Graham from Divine Clarity, and we are discussing the crown chakra. You can look her up and find her on social media and her website with Divine Clarity on social media, and your website, Divine.
Divine-clarity.com.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. If you have not checked out the rest of our series, this is the last in an 8-part series where we have gone through and we started talking about chakras in general, and then we have visited each one along the way, and we are discussing a little bit about it and how it shows up in our life and some of the ways that personally or professionally that we work with it. Just as a reminder, these are our viewpoints and things that we have experienced through our work and our personal lives. Take what resonates and leave what doesn't. One of the beautiful things about these chakras is that they show up in many different traditions in different ways. So if you follow a certain tradition and they told you one thing and we are talking about another, it doesn't mean that either is wrong. It just means that that's how that energy is showing up in that individual or that individual experience. So take what resonates and leave what doesn't. Um, it's nice to be back here again. It's
I
been a little
know.
bit since we've been able to record these, so it's
Feels
kind of
like
fun to be
forever.
here, right? We're also moving towards the end of the year, and I think this is actually a really great time to talk about the crown chakra because I think that we get so stuck in our life in the hustle and the struggle of the last few months of the year that we forget to open up to connection in higher awareness and open understanding. And I feel like all of that encompasses the crown chakra. So yeah, let's get into it. The crown chakra exists at the top of our head. It includes the our upper brain and the top of our head, and basically anything from the brow up, as well as it is said to open up above our head. So if you think of the image of a tree, we have our root system that goes into the earth and spreads out, and our crown is said to open up just like the top of the tree, whereas our root and our root chakra is the base of the tree. So, completely errant left side thought. There is the cutest little bird that is. I have my window open because I'm a little toasty this morning. And there is this one little bird that's outside the window that makes just the most fun noise occasionally. I don't know if it'll come across, but that's kind of cool. Anyway, so crown chakra connects with higher awareness, higher understanding. It's our divine connection. It's our connection to how we celebrate the divine. We may use the words that are comfortable to us, but we encourage you to use whatever words are comfortable to you with how you celebrate a divine connection or a connection to a higher power. Um, it is the upper brain. It can have a little bit to do with our nervous system, and yeah, it to me it's that connection to openness and like you had said when we were chatting before, Danielle, that notion of not being alone even when it feels like we're alone.
Yeah.
And I really think that it's a powerful chakra that often when we're in our humanness we forget to add to the table.
Yeah.
Um, I do think, or I do want to say that for those of us who do Reiki, this is one of the, or in general, when we receive energy, this is one of the chakras that we receive energy from. When we are taught Reiki, we are taught that we bring it in through the crown and we bring it in through our heart. And anytime I've done energy work like that, that's right along with my visual. So, any thoughts about the crown chakra, Danielle, and what it brings us?
Yeah, I loved the way, first of all, connection, that's what it is for me, but I love the way you said connected to the vastness because it is, and it's connected to everything and to the openness and the vastness. But to me, it also feels very small and comforting in a way with that whole notion of not being alone, even if you're alone, kind of thing. It doesn't
Right.
feel like this big, open, scary space. It feels like this very comforting, open space.
You make a great point, and I guess the moments that I've had that experience that would be very crown chakra would be when I'm in a meditation and I'm actually very much away from the world. but I'm focused inward, and yet I'm not in my body per se. Obviously, I'm in my body here on earth, but my mind and my consciousness is much more expanded into another place, or moved into, even, I guess I'd consider it a dreamlike state. And those are the meditations that people really love, because they get into this, like you said, it's this cozy, warm, comforting meditation, and at the same time it feels expansive. So you hit the nail on the head with that. I love that.
So you're going inward into this
Hmm.
little space to reach that expansiveness. I love
Love it.
it.
Very cool.
Mm.
Um, One of the things that I noticed this morning, and it was actually right before we started here, um, I had a very Monday-ish energy this morning. Like, I was kind of snarky, and I was hot. I was
Mm.
a bit scattered, and I'm like, oh, I really don't think I'm here. I really don't think I'm here, ready to have this conversation. So I started playing some crown chakra music to get me ready. However, I found it almost irritating.
Mm.
And it was one of those things that my energy in my body and my energy in my mind was not at that space to be up here and open yet. So I actually shifted and played root chakra music, which was playing when you came on, to help ground my energy first and then be more open to that crown chakra. So for me, if I'm agitated or off, I can't hop right into that crown chakra energy. I have to ground my energy first and find a bit of an internal balance to be able to open that crown chakra. And I think
Yeah.
that that leans into that notion. We talked about how there's a little bit of nervous system that's involved with this chakra. And I
Mhm.
think it's, if we have that deregulated nervous system, our crown chakra is easy to access, at least in my experience. What do you think?
Right. Well, it makes perfect sense because if you don't need crown chakra work, not that that music is ever going to do something or give you a bad effect listening to it if you don't need it, but because you were just trying to jump there without the rest of you being ready, yeah, it makes total sense why you couldn't just shut everything off and
Right.
connect.
And
Mm.
it's funny because it wasn't, like you said, it wasn't a bad thing,
Yeah.
and the music wasn't bad at all, but it was something that added to the scatteredness in my head. And I guess for me, it feels like sometimes I have to get through my scattered brain to be able to connect to that crown chakra. So the scatteredness hangs out in my brow chakra. And I, I guess from an energetic standpoint, sometimes it feels like it's just all right here. And the rumination is happening, and that overthinking and the scattered thoughts, and it's all overloaded in my brow chakra. So I have to balance that out, and then I can get up to the crown. So yeah, absolutely.
There you go. And maybe we should point out if it ever happens to someone else, it may not necessarily be root chakra that you have to go to balance that out. Maybe it's something else. Maybe you're feeling very emotional and you need some sacral chakra work. Who knows what it'd be? Mhm.
Absolutely. Lean into where it feels like it is in your body. And of course, if you have any mental health concerns, seek a mental health professional, because those mental health professional situations help us connect to more of that spiritual notion. And that crown chakra really very much has a spiritual energy. So when you want to lean into a connection with your higher power, or a connection with higher understanding, or a connection with this more higher divine energy, that mental health aspect, which sometimes feels the complete opposite of spiritual, plays a big role, because any
Yeah.
of that mental health concern that you have will be present no matter what. So when you heal this, you lift your vibration, and you can allow that spiritual connection. So tell me a little bit about how the crown chakra shows up in your life. Did we have a glitch?
I lost you for a split second. I was like, come back, come back. You're here. We're all good.
Good.
So I was just thinking, well, before we go into that, but it kind of plays into what you just asked me too. When I connect, I'm always envisioning this silvery, sparkly white light coming through my crown chakra, going through all the chakras down into my root, down into my feet. I don't know how other people connect, but I never just think crown chakra and up. Well, let's connect.
Yeah.
It's always something that runs through.
Yeah. That's a very
I
great
just think
point.
that was
So
neat.
absolutely. That's when I'm doing that.
I
That's
forgot the
exactly.
question now.
No, you're good. When I'm doing the Reiki, when I connect with Reiki, or when I'm connecting with a reading for somebody, that white light meditation coming down through our crown and washing through us is a cornerstone of the practice. So you make a really valid point. It's not just the crown chakra. Um, how else does
It
this show
also,
up?
if I'm feeling nervous,
Go ahead, you're good.
I think we're in a little delay. Sorry. I think too, when for me, when I'm nervous or feeling anxious about something, I can do that connection. Not that I'm trying to connect to spirit or my higher self or to work or do anything, but just going through that kind of 2-minute meditation can really, I guess, ground me. It can make me feel connected. It can make me feel not alone. It can make me feel like everything's going to be all right.
Very cool. Yes, absolutely. Um, I think one of the best places to do that type of meditation for a lot of people is the shower because you have the
Yeah.
sensation of the water hitting the top of your head and you can envision that with a white light going down through. It's funny though, because when I'm anxious, to me, it flips around. To me, it's welcoming. There's a grounding and opening meditation where it welcomes the energy up through my roots and then brings it out through my crown. That helps me in that
Mhm.
situation. But I think that that's that self exploration because I've also done it the other way too. Very cool. I love that.
I've never even thought to do it backwards.
Well, and it's, I guess when I've been doing energy work with people, I feel like it's shown up either way. It's felt like some people we need to start that energy work at the roots, and other times we started at the crown. So I guess it gets to happen either way. So how else has the crown chakra shown up in your life, personally or professionally?
I guess that it's just what I've been saying all along. Whenever I want to feel connected, when there's times I feel like maybe I'm going through something alone, or when I'm searching for an answer. And so many times, like I already know the answer, but I don't trust the answer. So I go into that connection to ask my higher self and have a conversation to get validation for that. That's
Very
probably
cool.
the way it plays most in my life.
I love that. Do you
Mm.
feel like when you are more, I'm going to say more present in your crown chakra, um, do you feel like you receive signs externally more?
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. I pay attention more. I feel like I receive them all the time, but I'm paying attention more. Because
Pick them up
sometimes,
more.
like you said, it was a great point you made first off, as soon as we started. Right now, especially with the end of the year coming, we're in a lot of life stuff, and it's hard to remember to connect to yourself, to take a moment for yourself, to pay attention to signs. For me, I got that to-do list. What do I have to do next? What's next? What's next? And it's not spiritual.
Absolutely. We had a conversation at the Health Collective with a bunch of our practitioners, and we were talking about boundaries for the holiday season and how to best set those boundaries and what that looks like. And one of the people that had participated in the talks, he made a really great point that sometimes this time of year, it's about allowing those boundaries to set down, to create more of that openness to connect with people. And I feel like so many of us become so protective of our energy that we don't want to share it and we don't want to witness other people's energy because we're just lost, like you said, in our own stuff and our own emotions and our own day-to-day to-do lists and previous expectations and judgments that we feel we're hanging on to in our story, that we put those boundaries up too much and we forget to allow them to be open to that connection. And I often feel like some of that crown chakra work can help us reach out and have more connections externally. Um, so I felt like that was kind of a cool thing. Obviously, we know that our connections and our relationships happens more so in our sacral, but it feels that's where some of this multi chakra experience gets to happen is we have this sacral chakra experience that maybe we're working through, but by opening up that crown chakra and allowing that energy in and that higher awareness, we're adding a bit of a brighter, lighter energy to it. Does that make
I
sense?
totally agree. I just had this conversation on the way home from the nail salon with a friend in the car, and I was talking about how my husband and I have been reaching out so much more to our friends. And I find that when we're not together, like I long for that laughter and that connectedness. So I feel like not only do I need to be connected to my higher self, but I'm also reaching out more for connection to help raise that vibration and to keep me in a good place.
Very cool. I love that. So one of the things that comes up often when you look at the notion of crown chakra is the notion of bliss. And I feel like that's one of the terms that we hear but is not defined. So I feel like it would help if we just took a minute and defined what bliss means to each of us and what we feel bliss attached to the heart chakra. Put you a little bit
You
on the
go
spot today.
first. I would,
So
never mind.
I feel like the um it's to me it feels similar to what we talked about earlier about that sensation when you get into that really juicy meditation where you've kind of disconnected from the filtering and figuring out life and you've just opened up to this peace in your meditation. I feel like it's moments like that when you're in a space where you step out of your humanness and you're open to this expansiveness. So whether it be in meditation, in energy work, standing out and looking at like a beautiful view after a hike, or being in a truly being in a like family moment without any of the family drama that so many of us that bubbles up in so many lives in all these different places. When you can sit and listen to your kids laughter, you can sit with friends and listen to that laughter, and just where it's like unfiltered positivity and reverence.
Mhm.
That to me is what I honor as bliss, but I feel like that's a personal definition for everybody. What do they feel?
Well, now I feel like I should have gone first because I feel like it's very close to the same for me. It's that I just wrote down joy plus peace plus love plus connectedness, all of those things, but more, but
Yep.
like on a higher level of that.
Absolutely. And the
Mhm.
more we talk about it, I feel like the sacral chakra and the crown chakra actually do a lot of work together. And I never would have thought of that. I would absolutely put the crown chakra and the heart together. And
Yeah.
that, I feel like that's often two that I put together in energy work. But so now I'm like, okay, people want to get more out of their relationships and they want to break through some of these patterns and enjoy life a little bit more. I want to do energy work on the sacral, the heart, and the crown together to help that energy and connectedness flow. So
I love that.
I I appreciate these talks, man. So I don't know. I'm kind of drawing a blank.
Do we talk about what happens when it's not in alignment? Like that feeling of
Yes.
disconnectedness, loneliness, which you had hit on that can touch into the nervous system when we're feeling those things, that it might not necessarily be crown chakra energy, but those feelings of disconnectedness affecting the nervous system and other chakras.
Yep. Yes, I agree. And I feel like when we get too stuck in our own self,
Yeah.
that's when our crown chakra might be asking for a little support, or where our crown chakra can step in and support us in that energy. So, um, if it shows up with like a lack of self-worth, or if you start owning everybody else's happiness or everybody else's story, or you're owning and you're presuming judgments from everybody else in the world around you, I feel like that crown chakra work, or meditate on that crown chakra, or however you do that work, welcomes in almost a little bit of energy to accent that. It's like, hey, I got something I can add to this table. Why don't you focus on me for a little bit?
Right. Or maybe it's feeling lost and directionless and not being able to make a decision and not taking responsibility for what you're doing, what you're
Yep,
thinking.
absolutely. And I think the some of the ways that I like when I'm stuck in my head, and I'm going to say stuck in my solar plexus because those two happen often for me personally, and they kind of feed into this rumination of things. And when I'm in that rhythm, some of the ways that I help to break out of that, and I would say connect to that crown chakra, is I get out of the space that I'm in. I move away from that physical space because that physical space sometimes feels like it's weighing on me. And when I get out, I find that I'm you naturally in the world or connecting with other people. Sometimes like finding something that I can do to support somebody else and being of service to other people often gets us out of that stuck feeling that we get in and helps to activate that crown chakra. Excuse me, a little bit, if
Right.
that makes sense. Those are a couple of ways that I do. How about you?
Yeah, well, it was just interesting to me about what you just said about taking care, not taking care of someone else, but what did you, being of service to someone else. There's such a fine line between that and being in someone else's business and trying to caretake someone else. You have to be very careful with those.
Right.
One is
So
not
let's
getting you out of there.
exactly. So let's look at that and discuss how that shows up. Like for me, if I need to break out of this self rumination pattern that I get in, um, if I'm to be of service to somebody else, it's not going to be me directly connecting with them. It might be me driving through Dunkin' and buying the coffee for the person behind me, or finding out a way that I can donate some of my goods to a local cause, or it might actually be me listening to an audiobook or a podcast about somebody else's story that helps pull me out of that notion of, oh, so I guess really that's not an act of service, but it's kind of like an, oh, okay, this is, get me out of my own rumination. So like, I know one of the audiobooks that I'm listening to now is Matthew Perry's book. Whew, that is, that's a, it's powerful to hear his story and he shares candidly, but it's definitely one of those stories that gets you out of your own head and helps you realize that, okay, life really isn't, I don't need to be stuck in that energy. So I guess that's not really being of service, but yeah, does that make sense?
Certain ways. But that makes a whole lot of sense because my go-to is usually like taking a walk with a friend, and usually they can put something into perspective or they share something like you're listening to the book, and it's like, all right, the world doesn't revolve around me. I got it. I have to keep being reminded once in a while, but
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it makes sense that the crown chakra then being of service to somebody else is maybe putting something out there that you don't own the results of. So
Mhm.
that instead of supporting and fixing somebody else's problem, you're just sending a good energy out there, doing an act that you don't have ownership of once it's beyond you. Because then you have to trust that it's getting to where it needs to, instead of that codependent, this is your issue, this is my solution for your issue, let's get in it.
All right. Hmm.
And I think so many people that are in helping professions, or that is a fine line they walk, because I know I have a passion for welcoming this kind of energy and creating the space for other people to embrace that energy through meditation and energy work, and creating space for intuitive notions to come through. But I can't own what happens with it or where it goes. And as soon as I
Mhm.
do, I'm sacrificing that space that I'm attempting to create. And I think so many people in so many different types of modalities, that's a line that they walk, if that makes sense.
Sorry, I lost you again. Yes, you did. Yeah, I lost you again. I don't know what's going on. My internet connection keeps going, but I did get most of what you said, I think, anyway. I was just thinking, you build the room. They decorate it any way they want to. You have no responsibility for that. I love it.
Absolutely. And we're so connected with social media and life in general these days that it feels actually hard to get away from that connection sometimes. So I
Mm.
feel like pulling away from that societal version of connection and reaching to that openness of the crown chakra with a higher understanding and more energetic spiritual connection can actually be a healthier balance versus the numbing of social media. And I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but I
It's
do kind of feel, go ahead.
I got some because it might go down rabbit hole. Because I feel like you have to be so much more authentic when you're connected to someone face to face, or even like this, rather than social media, because other things are going to come through. The way you express yourself, throat chakra is going to come through, even if it's just an eye roll or something that people can't see, in comments on social media. But when you are together face to face, there is much more authenticity, much more connection.
Absolutely. And I also feel like when we get into too much of that social media type connection versus, like you said, face to face, whether it's here virtually or it's actually being in person, I feel like that social media is a way that we numb having to figure out how to make that more personalized connection.
Right.
I wonder if over time it actually numbs our crown chakra.
Hmm. I can absolutely see that.
So, you want to work on your crown chakra?
Mhm.
Shut off social media for a little bit and hang out and just be.
I
Open up
have.
to that
I
connection.
have had to, this is probably going to be a rabbit hole too. After our conversation a few days ago about being more mindful and being more in the moment, I have definitely made a point to keep my phone outside of the room that my husband and I are in. Whether we're watching TV, whether we're playing a game, I put the phone down. I don't want the phone near me. I don't care if it rings. How important is going to be. And I've been missing phone calls and messages, and I don't apologize to people. I'm
Yeah,
like,
right.
it was in the other room, it was charging, I was doing something. I get back to it if
Absolutely.
I can, but it's hard to do.
Yeah. Well, we feel like it's all urgent. And I think
Mhm.
that notion of it's almost like we have to teach ourselves that we'll survive and they'll survive if we step away from it for a little bit. And I'm
Mhm.
notorious for if I think it, I'm going to send it to you. However, I also carry the notion that it's your responsibility to set your phone down and shut your notifications off so that way it's your phone is interrupting you because then I'll just send whatever. I don't know if that's the right way to look at it or not, but it's funny you talk
That's how
about that
I see it
notion,
too. But I
right?
also don't expect people to answer me either until it's
No,
convenient for them. I'm not one of those people who I text you, I want to text right back. I don't care if it's tomorrow, as long as
exactly.
it's not urgent.
Exactly. It's funny,
Mm.
we got new phones recently because our phones were definitely in need of it, a couple of ours. And I found myself wanting to set mine up so that things like social media were harder to access because, and even in general lately, I feel like I have, in so many people, it feels like they're stepping away from that social media connection and finding a way to be more authentically connected internally with themselves as well as with their immediate life. And
Mhm.
I think that leans away from getting stuck in some of these chakras and welcomes in a little bit of that crown chakra. Very cool.
Mhm. Hope so.
So, what are some of your favorite stones for the crown chakra, or ways that you work
Again,
with your crown chakra?
yeah, well, I do like stones, but I am a firm believer that whatever you're drawn to, that's the one you want to use. I really don't care. I don't sit around and say, oh, this one's a crown chakra one, whatever I like, but mostly it's the white, the selenite, the clear quartz crystal. What is it? The other one is moon quartz. I think I have a moon quartz, right? Isn't there such a thing as
Ooh, I've
moonstone
never
or
heard of that. That looks
moonstone?
okay.
I think it's a moonstone.
Okay.
I'm not good with the names either. So I like to pick something on the more clear side, but that's
Yep.
just a preference.
I love that. Yes, I feel like I automatically lean into selenite. Actually, I'm wearing my selenite necklace that I got forever ago. Um, and I like having selenite in my environments. I actually feel like I want to get more for my house. Um, and I also I feel like I like a little bit of amethyst for the crown because I feel like that goes into a lot. And I feel like blue calcite.
I
I don't
don't
know.
know
I've
that.
got a pendant that was given to me and I can't reach it. It's on the way on the other side of my jewelry thing right now. And I think it is, no, blue kyanite. That's what it is. And I feel like every time I wear that, it feels like I open up to a higher understanding in a more spiritual aspect to things. So for me, blue kyanite, I would definitely put as a crown chakra energy. And I feel like I need to
I'm
put
gonna
that on right
look it up because I want to see it.
now. Absolutely. Actually, if you don't, hang on. I think I
I
can
don't
get it.
mind.
This is well worn, and it's usually a little bit of a brighter blue, but it kind of has that selenite type feel with a blue
Yeah.
to it. But I have had like blue. Um, oh, maybe this is the one I'm supposed to wear today. That's also some blue kyanite. They're like little blue kyanite beads.
Beautiful.
So
Beautiful.
I know it's a little hard to see, but those are the ones that I have right on hand. But this one, like, this one is well worn because I have worn the heck out of it. Anyway, those are my two stones that I go for. And I always like to, for the crown chakra, I like looking up crown chakra music,
Mhm.
or I like silence. And I think that's really hard for some people to sit in. But that
Yeah.
notion of simply sitting in silence, I feel is really powerful for the crown chakra.
I think
It'll
I
bring up,
I think I also use prayer. Now that you mentioned
yes,
meditation, but prayer. Yeah, just
absolutely.
looking for
Good
that
point.
connection.
Good point. I like that notion of the prayer being a part of it. Um, I also feel like on that notion, then there is a bit of a surrender that happens with a crown chakra then. Because for
Mhm.
me, when I think about the notion of prayer and meditation, often I'm surrendering what I'm struggling with to a energy higher than myself, or
True.
more open than myself, or more divine. So I think there is definitely a surrender that happens with this chakra too.
Absolutely.
Very cool. And it's 11:11 right now in this moment. Ah, I feel like those, I don't know the exact meaning to those numbers, but I always feel like those lead into more of a divine connection. So,
Well, ones are all about the universe supporting you.
right, there we go. Very cool.
Hmm.
Any thoughts or questions or anything you need to add?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think we covered a good deal.
I would encourage people to to sit, simply breathe, maybe play a little crown chakra music, or just open to a connection and witness what comes up for them and what that means for them. That would be my encouragement for people.
I know in my notes, it doesn't, how do I put this? There's not as much information about it or regarding it as there are other chakras. So I feel like
Right.
it's on the more simplistic side.
Yes,
That makes sense.
absolutely. I like the notion that it's, I don't want this to sound bad, but it's kind of like, okay, shut up and be open to the experience.
Yeah, it's like that's it. That's
There
it.
you go. Here's your crown chakra. Sit in it
In
and
a
experience
nutshell.
it. Okay.
In a nutshell.
Very cool. Well
Mhm.
then, if you're open to it, do you have a deck of cards with you today?
You haven't heard me shuffling for the past 40
I
minutes?
I have not. I've tried not to so that it's not in my audio, but
Oh yeah, I have. I even just dropped one. That's why I disappeared because I'm always dropping cards. But yeah.
absolutely.
So
I'm gonna actually have you can draw first, but I want you to do me a favor and I want you to choose A or B.
hey.
Okay. We do that all the time at home when we can't make a decision. We won't tell people what it is and we'll just ask somebody else to choose A or B. And that's what you're doing with my decks today. So
So are you not making a decision because you're not connected in your crown chakra?
I don't, I
Because
felt
I
like
don't
both
know.
decks could, I was really stuck on what deck to do. So who knows?
Oh,
Maybe.
yeah. And that's why I was just gonna say I'm just a cartomancy girl at heart. I know I read tarot and I love tarot, but I really just love my cartomancy. I feel like they're very grounded and direct, like me. So it's just to the point. Open up, shut up, and
Absolutely.
experience it. So I'm just gonna ask,
Open up, shut up, and experience it.
that's
That's my new
it.
crown chakra mantra. Open up, shut up, and experience it.
Just shut up, open up, and do it. All right. So I'm just going to ask what it is we most need to know. And usually it's just validation, but we'll say what do we most need to know about the crown chakra? Hmm. I have no idea what this means. Well, now it makes a little more sense. So, I got well, it's also it's the hurt feelings card, but I think it's kind of not taking things for granted. Being open to that. Also, a card comes in that has a meaning of a talent for expressing yourself, change in direction, and satisfaction and inner peace came in. So I don't know. I'm just going to throw this out there that I'm I'm a little confused with this, but it feels like to me like no matter what's going on, try to keep yourself open and just like we were saying, expressing yourself openly and freely, authentically brings
Like
that
that.
change about to that inner peace and satisfaction. I'm trying to get to that inner peace card.
I like that.
Yeah, it's not as direct today. Thank you for calling me out, cartomancy cards. But
Well, I do like the notion of like, I know for me, one of the big things that's going to get in my way of finding that connection and that peace is my emotions. If there's
yeah,
anything that's going to get stuck in the way, it's going to be my emotions
absolutely.
and my rumination on what emotions have come up.
Ah,
So, yeah, for me, that makes complete sense. And the idea that I have to get out of my emotions sometimes and express them or get them out in some way so I can connect differently.
thank you for that. And especially for what you just said, because I was thinking, don't let your emotions take over and that be your expression, the way you're expressing yourself out to the world. But you said, make sure you express them, get them out of the way, go through it, go through the feels, and get yourself back to that inner peace. Thank you for
And
talking that
maybe,
out.
right? That's what we get. That's where I feel like that juicy crown chakra stuff happened. Um, but maybe even that expression doesn't, like for me, sometimes it doesn't mean having expressing those emotions to other people. For me to have a higher awareness of them, I have to pull back and express them in my own life in order to
Mhm.
process them. So I guess the visual that comes to mind when you read that, when I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Cause like I have these emotions that bubble up and they prevent me from connecting with that higher understanding or that higher awareness. And there's these thoughts and these emotions that are getting in the way and I have to get them out, but not necessarily throw them out at other people, but like journal them or voice memo them so that I
Beautiful.
can get them out and then I can bring in that higher awareness and then I can bring in that higher vibration and understand what's beyond them. So I actually appreciate that notion.
I think one of these times I should pull cards and you read them, and you pull cards and I'll read that.
Okay. Well, I like that.
You did
So
much better than I did today.
no, you absolutely were there. To me, it all made sense. So I love that.
Good.
Hopefully I didn't interject too much into yours.
No, no, no.
I actually receive your reading today and take that as a note to heart. Um, and maybe that's something we get to do when we visit again on our Uniquely Divine's conversation moving forward.
Mhm.
Um, stay tuned for more information on that. So, anyway, I'm going to draw a card. This is the I Am Mantra deck by Beth Lynch. And these are intentions. I am mantras to help us, I guess, recenter and open up to a higher awareness. I'm going to wait over here at the end. I am accepting balance. So I love the notion of this where it doesn't look like it should be balanced, but it is. And I feel like it's a reminder that we get to find that personal expression of balance or harmony in our life with our spirituality and our humanness. So that notion of whatever's coming up in our humanness, as well as wanting that more spiritual divine connection that our crown chakra or that higher awareness or openness that our crown chakra offers, we each get to find that balance of how that happens in our life. And sometimes it'll happen in a nice, beautiful way, and sometimes it we feel a little off center with that balance. But it's a matter of finding that harmony and how it lives in our life. And sometimes that's emotional and sometimes that's more spiritual, higher understanding. So
That's exactly what I thought of as soon as you put that up. It's that connection between spiritual, that beautiful blue sky, and earth, those big clunky rocks.
Absolutely.
It was a beautiful picture, way to picture it.
I like that notion, the big clunky rocks. Like,
Clunky.
are there big, and I guess leaning into your reading with that notion of that emotional awareness, what big, what big clunky rocks are getting in the way of you connecting to a bit of that crown chakra energy?
Listen, Earth is clunky. The earthly experience is clunky. All of it. All
I
of
love that expression.
it.
It is clunky right now.
It
Yes,
is
it hits the
clunky, all
nail on
right.
the head. And if we can get out of this clunkiness and into a little bit of crown chakra, maybe it'll help us find our way.
That's it. Hmm.
Very cool. So I think that's what we have going on for the crown chakra today. I really want to say thank you very much, Danielle, for being with me through these 8 series. I've truly learned a ton and loved being here and appreciate your connection. Shall we share some of our what we are exploring moving forward?
Yes, because thank you for that. I have been so grateful to be here, and it's reminded me what a great connection we have and how much fun we have while we're learning. So do.
Absolutely. So we are, as long as it fits in our life and moves forward easily, we are going to connect once a month for a uniquely divine conversations on a new and separate podcast. It's going to be available at least on YouTube and Spotify. Chances are Apple Podcast as well. And we're going to continue our conversations. And it won't all be about chakras. Maybe we'll pull cards and read them from each other. Oh, you're going to make me read cartomancy cards.
Oh,
Ooh,
not necessarily, no. But
that would be a good practice. That would be a good
maybe.
thing. Push out my boundaries. But we'll have
And it
conversation
may
about
not be all about, it may not be all about spiritual as well. Mhm.
exactly spirituality, life, and everything in between.
Yeah.
And we would love for you to join us along the ride. And do we want to put some of the like the link to the Instagram in the show notes so that people can follow there and start to be
Sure.
aware of when we share our first episode?
Yeah, absolutely. Great idea. Mhm.
Cool. Alrighty. So we will share the Instagram as well as you can stay tuned there. Is there do we have a Facebook page yet?
Oh, yes, I did that, right? I don't
I think
remember if I
so.
did.
Either way,
Yes.
we'll share some stuff in the comments below or in the show notes for you to connect with that and hang out with us as we continue our uniquely divine conversations. Do not forget to celebrate your uniquely beautiful self. And if you have any questions or thought about anything that we've talked about or the work that we do, feel free to reach out to us and continue to celebrate your beautiful self. Very cool.